Dear Patriots, before the news starts, please subscribe to our patriotic channel by clicking the subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up to this video. Don't forget to leave your opinion below in the comments section. Share the news on Facebook and Twitter so your friends see it. Thank you.
Cabinet shakeups give Democrats a chance to block Trump picks. The White House was hoping for a smooth 2018 on Capitol Hill. Instead, President Donald Trump is staring at two bitter confirmation fights, and the possibility emboldened Democrats could block his new cabinet nominees. Trump's decision to nominate CIA Director Mike Pompeo to replace Rex Tillerson at the State Department, and to elevate Pompeo's controversial deputy Gina Haspel, who hasn't previously been confirmed, has created a pair of high-stakes battles in the Senate, where the GOP enjoys a threadbare 51-49 advantage. With Senator Rand Paul, R-Ariz, opposing both nominees and Senator John McCain, Republican Arizona, absent while he undergoes treatment for brain cancer, Trump will need Democrats to support his picks. The looming struggle to get cabinet replacements through underscores just how much the political calculus has changed for Trump since the early days of his administration, as Democrats look ahead to the midterms and throw off any semblance of cooperation with the White House. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, DNY, for example, supported Pompeo to be CIA director, as did 14 of his colleagues in the minority. Democrats say Pompeo will fall far short of that, if he gets any Democratic support at all. Both of them have serious questions to answer and neither confirmation is a sure thing, Schumer told Politico in a statement. Republicans agree that failed confirmation votes are a real possibility. "I'd be surprised if they didn't block the two nominees," said Senator Thom Tillis, RNC. Senator Schumer is pretty clear that he's trying to slow us down. And again, it may not be over the nominee themselves. It's purely a tactic to prevent us from doing our work here. Until the Tillerson ouster, the calendar for 2018 appeared free of the type of divisive legislative fights over health care and taxes that defined Republicans' first year back in full control of the government. The completion of an omnibus spending bill and a punt on the immigration status of Dreamers, the thinking went, would leave the White House free to focus its energies on the midterms and avoid any debilitating intra-party brawls. Instead, the White House is gearing up for a full-on push to keep the GOP in line behind two nominees known for defending torture techniques, and the prospect of additional confirmation fights if Trump shuffles other members of his cabinet. "I think we assume a tough fight on almost all of our nominations. I think that the obstruction has been historic. So we wouldn't expect anything different at this point," said White House Legislative Affairs Director Mark Short. "I'm confident that they're both eminently qualified and have amazing stories to tell, and I think they'll generate a lot of confidence through the hearing process." White House officials say they're confident that they'll emerge victorious, in part because there are 10 Democratic senators up for re-election in states that Trump won in 2016, who will face pressure not to obstruct. "I think Democrats make a show out of both of them," one White House official said, but predicted eventual confirmation, voicing particular confidence about Pompeo. Democrats are well aware that they could get a much less agreeable appointee in the Trump administration, someone that doesn't have the credentials he does, the person said. "I think they're going to make a scene of it, but they're going to take him." The White House is also hopeful that the looming prospect of talks with North Korea could put further pressure on Democrats to approve the nominees. Haspel and Pompeo each face a different set of challenges. Senator Tim Kaine, Democrat Virginia, and Senator Jeanne Shaheen, DNH, voted in favor of Pompeo as CIA director last year, but could flip. With Paul, a member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, already opposed, losing another Republican on the panel could be catastrophic, though Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, R-Ariz, could still bring Pompeo to the floor, regardless of his committee vote. Retiring Senator Jeff Flake, Republican Arizona, who serves on the Foreign Relations panel, has been privately cited by Democrats as a potential flip vote on both Pompeo and Haspel. A vocal Trump critic, he said he's looking into Haspel's record and wants to hear willingness from Pompeo to break with Trump on Russia. We need people who will stand up to the president, frankly, on some of these issues. I want to make sure he's willing to do that, Flake said in an interview. Haspel, whose current role did not require confirmation, is unlikely to face a no vote from a committee stacked with defense hawks. But she will face difficult questions from Democrats about her time overseeing a CIA prison in Thailand where suspects were interrogated with methods that many consider to constitute torture. These are going to be hard-hitting hearings. So certainly, Democrats are very, very anxious to get some answers, said Senator Ron Wyden, D.R., who serves on the Intelligence Committee and opposes both Pompeo and Haspel. Yet Trump's demonstrated preference for unorthodox figures could leave some Democrats inclined to accept the bear, who few would label unqualified even if they disagree with them on policy. Republicans also have the advantage of a cadre of Democratic senators facing re-election in 2018 in states Trump easily won: Joe Donnelly of Indiana, Heidi Heitkamp of North Dakota, Joe Manchin of West Virginia and Claire McCaskill of Missouri. All four voted to confirm Pompeo at the CIA. The most conservative Democrat, Joe Manchin of West Virginia, is not an automatic yes on either, despite his closeness to Trump. Senator Manchin looks forward to meeting with both nominees and evaluating their records of service, a spokesman said. Democrats have shown increased unity since the early months of the Trump administration. They held together to block repeal of the Affordable Care Act when they were joined by 3 Republicans. And they voted unanimously against Trump's signature tax cut bill. It's possible. At 51-49, what's the possibility that there will be some Republican opposition? I think it's fairly high, said Senator Tim Kaine, Democrat Virginia. I think there will be drama. Short of blocking the picks altogether, Democrats could still cause serious headaches for the White House throughout the process. The biggest danger for the White House is that both of these people are coming from inside the administration and are going to be asked to talk about what's happened inside the administration during their confirmation hearings, said Matthew Miller, who helped shepherd former Attorney General Eric Holder through his confirmation hearings and joined him at DOJ as a spokesman. He pointed as an example to a Washington Post report from June 2017 that Trump complained to Pompeo and Director of National Intelligence Dan Coats early in his presidency about then FBI Director James Comey's handling of the Russia probe. If Pompeo refuses to address that conversation, Democrats could use that as justification for voting against him, Miller said, since such questions go to how Pompeo reacted to presidential pressure while leading the CIA. If you invoke executive privilege at your oversight hearing, there's nothing the senators can do to you, Miller said. In a confirmation hearing, you can lose votes over it. Little legal recourse for FBI's McCabe if fired right before retirement. If Attorney General Jeff Sessions carries through on an FBI recommendation to fire former Bureau Deputy Director Andrew McCabe on the eve of his planned retirement, a massive legal imbroglio seems inevitable. However, lawyers say McCabe's legal options are few because most FBI employees have little legal recourse over attempts to punish them over alleged misconduct. I don't see an obvious path for recourse, said Catherine Atkinson, a Washington lawyer who represents federal workers. FBI employees generally do not have those rights. Officials at the FBI have recommended that McCabe be fired, potentially upending his plans to retire on Sunday. The precise allegations against McCabe remain unclear, but he has been accused of a lack of candor during a review by the Justice Department Inspector General into decisions made at the FBI in advance of the 2016 election. McCabe on Thursday took his appeal in person to senior officials in the Office of Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein. The former number 2 official at the FBI was seen arriving for an afternoon meeting at Justice Department headquarters, across the street from the FBI's Hoover building. The decision is expected to end up at Sessions' desk as soon as Friday, putting the embattled Attorney General in an exceedingly awkward spot. Dismissing McCabe would surely please President Donald Trump, who has repeatedly slammed McCabe on Twitter and in person. But the federal government does not normally fire high-ranking career officials with 22 years of service except in the face of extraordinary evidence of serious wrongdoing. To look at removing a person, potentially, 2 days before they retire, the factual basis of this has got to be really, really strong for them to do that, said Michael Rochford, a former head of the FBI's counterintelligence section. Whatever the decision, the FBI is likely to be divided about its legitimacy, Bureau veterans said. People are going to retreat to their side of, do we love Trump or hate Trump? Said James Gagliano, a former FBI agent who is now a professor at St. John's University in New York. The timing sucks, because it looks like this is set to happen as Trump tweets something and now they're rushing to get this guy. It just looks awful. The one person I would not want to be now is Sessions. If Andy is guilty of lying, Gagliano added, he deserves to be fired, but this thing is not going to look good. A prolonged legal battle could exacerbate tensions at the FBI and undermine Director Christopher Wray's efforts to restore a sense of normalcy after Trump's high-profile firing of James Comey as director last year and a more recent showdown with the White House over declassification of a memo that House Republicans prepared about alleged surveillance abuses. If McCabe is fired and wants to challenge that decision, his options are limited. Most federal civil service workers who believe they're being subjected to excessive punishment can protest to an obscure agency called the Merit System Protection Board and then to court, but for decades Congress has given the FBI and its management more leeway. There's no statutory basis to go to court, said Tom Devine of the Government Accountability Project. While the usual civil service avenues are closed to McCabe, a lawsuit in U.S. District Court in Washington is a possibility, lawyers said, but would probably require him to argue that his firing departed from standard practice in a way so egregious that it violated his constitutional rights to due process. If McCabe does file a lawsuit, he seems certain to argue that his repeated taunting by Trump put Sessions under political pressure to carry out the firing, whether or not it was warranted, lawyers say. The White House continued to provide fodder for those arguments on Thursday by trashing McCabe even as he showed up at the Justice Department in the afternoon to plead his case. Asked whether Trump believed McCabe should be fired, White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders said, "That's a determination that we would leave up to Attorney General Sessions." She quickly added, "But we do think it is well documented that he has had some very troubling behavior and by most accounts a bad actor and should have some cause for concern." Those kinds of comments, Trump's repeated tweets about McCabe and reports that last year the president asked McCabe whom he voted for could fuel claims of a constitutional violation. If the White House is putting political pressure on the Attorney General to do something about this, that's an implication of being targeted for political reasons, said David Colapinto, a lawyer who has represented FBI whistleblowers. McCabe could argue it raises an inference of retaliation in violation of the First Amendment right of free speech, right to petition Congress and freedom of association. Trump's comments about McCabe's wife's failed Virginia Senate bid and the donations she received could potentially infringe on McCabe's right to freedom of association, which would be protected by the First Amendment, depending on McCabe's career status, Colapinto added. Still, such a lawsuit would be far from a sure thing. In recent years, the courts have repeatedly shunted or shut down various lawsuits brought by FBI personnel, claiming they were unfairly punished. The financial stakes for McCabe could be significant. If he makes it to his 50th birthday on Sunday while still in federal service, he's eligible to begin drawing a full pension immediately under provisions that apply to federal law enforcement officers, said Kimberly Berry, a lawyer in Arlington, Virginia, who specializes in federal retirement issues. Berry disputed reports, however, that McCabe would lose his pension altogether if he is fired before Sunday. "He doesn't lose his retirement," she said. "It's not all thrown out in the garbage." Even if McCabe is dismissed, he will probably be eligible to begin collecting his pension at about age 57, although he would likely lose access to federal health coverage and would probably get a smaller pension than if he were to stay on the federal payroll through Sunday, experts said. One former FBI agent noted that when Agent Robert Hansen pleaded guilty to espionage, His wife was permitted to keep half his pension despite the extraordinary gravity of the crime Hansen admitted to. The Justice Department spokeswoman, Sarah Isgur Flores, has declined to comment on McCabe's case, but insists that officials are following well-established procedures for employee discipline. The department follows a prescribed process by which an employee may be terminated, she said on Wednesday. That process includes recommendations from career employees, and no termination decision is final until the conclusion of that process. We have no personnel announcements at this time. Some lawyers who routinely handle employee disputes at the FBI and other agencies said they were surprised and somewhat alarmed by the speed with which McCabe's case was being handled. When an Inspector General review of widespread misconduct at the FBI laboratory was released in 1997, it took 14 months for the Justice Department to settle on relatively minor punishments for a couple of the employees involved. What raises a question for me is if they are expediting the decision in his case for political reasons in order to fire him a day before he leaves, to deny him a pension, said Cola Pinto, the lawyer who has represented whistleblowers. I've had clients at the FBI where it's dragged out for months or even more than a year, whether by benign neglect or some other reason, said longtime federal employment lawyer Sherry Cannon. This is not typical of the way these agencies handle someone who's had a long and distinguished career.